that didn't have Rabbi Nissel as much, but we had Rabbi Fried. I just want to take the opportunity before I say what I really wanted to, what I prepared, was I also just wanted to express some hakaras hatov. Because I will tell you, my wife and I are probably one of the first people to have tried to sign up for this tour. We called before the ads came out. That's how aggressive we were. And I know we asked 8 million questions. And I know Rabbi Fried probably did not answer the phone or answer them, but for your wife, who answered every question so gracefully and thoughtfully and gently, and even though every detail and every air flight and every arrangement was done with such grace and pleasure that it just allayed all of our fears. But also, just as a personal note, that every detail that we were trying to dray and figure out what's on the itinerary, I will tell you that every single day far exceeded all of my expectations, and I will take the liberty of speaking for everybody here. Also, I just want to express extraordinary hakaras hatov to Rabbi Nissel, who gave his heart and soul to make everything as clear, as explanatory, and as koiches, and with the emotion that you do this 10 times, you do this 20 times, and sometimes it starts to become more of a rote project, and just spit back information. But I can tell you is that, thank God, from the years of experience that I've had, thank God to be able to speak, the way that Rabbi Nissel gave over the information was just absolutely extraordinary, and we all owe him a tremendous gratitude. I would also like to extend hakaras hatov to Rabbi Friend, but I saved Rabbi Friend for last because I want to tell you the one thought, Rabbi Friend, and I've listened to Rabbi Friend speak many times. Unbeknownst to him, I had the tremendous chus once to sponsor a speech by Rabbi Friend in Flatbush for Yom HaZikaron, and a number of years ago. And I just want to say it's that the speech that rings in my mind is the speech that he delivered to 90,000 people in MetLife Stadium, that had the entire 90,000 people quiet that you can hear a pin drop. And that message and that delivery was so extraordinary that when Rav Shiner, the Rosh Hashiva of Kamenetz, got up, he was in awe of the delivery, he was in awe of the speech, and he hadn't really said, he hadn't even known that this kind of speech existed. So how do I wish hakaras hatov to somebody, to give hakaras hatov to somebody who was complimented by the Rosh Hashiva of Kamenetz to such a degree? So it really isn't. It's really, the compliment will be is that one speech most of the olim could tolerate. By the second speech the Rav gets a little shvacha. The third, the fourth, the fifth. And here we are, as I didn't count because I really, but I'll trust you that it was 13 speeches. But I want to tell you, for those of you, I don't want to say old enough to remember the Lay's potato chip commercial, you can't just eat one. Let me tell you, Rabbi Friend, we are addicted, and we just can't eat one, okay? And we ate 13, and we're going to continue to eat the whole thing. Now, I just want to point out that in the future, you're going to find many opportunities to speak. And you're going to say that out of all the compliments I've gotten, there was one guy that got up there and compared me to Lay's potato chips. And I hope I make it. My name is Marvin Brody. If you want to just give me a little airtime out there, because that's okay. My office is at 1560 Broadway in Manhattan. Suite 601. Thank you. Okay. I just want to wish also a hakaras hatov to my table over there, because the Melmans, Morty and Sivi and Dovi there, when this tour started, we were in the bus literally the first day, and my wife, who is just such a efficient person, she had her notebook, and she says, I'm going to have notes and create an entire diary. And she literally, from the first moment, started copying down every speech that Rabbi Nitzel gave, every speech that Rabbi Fran gave, every nuance of explanation. But at the first day, so Morty turned and said, listen, why don't you write an article? Why don't you put it together for an article for the FJJ, one of actually the best newspaper in Flatbush. So I undertook that project, and I put a lot of time into it as we went through each day. And I don't know if, bus one, while you guys were in the back, I don't know what you were doing. All I know is you kept coming off of those bathroom stops, and it was like really like, forget about it, bus two, we take our stuff, right? We didn't drink as much as you guys, I guess. Those beer stuff. But I want to tell you. So I put in, as we went through each event, I was just making notes and really putting my personal feelings down. And I really decided to, and I undertook the project. And so I also have to express a curse for my wife, because I really devoted a lot of time sitting there, instead of discussing and talking and doing things, just making notes and trying to compile something that would be very meaningful to us. And I really, although the editor has not fully approved the article, I want to just ask you to sort of hang in there with me and just listen to some of my thoughts and what I wanted to put down, and you'll get the first hot off the press copy, I hope. But really, it really should touch everybody, because we were all there and we all might have experienced this. So I also apologize, because for at least the past 18 years, I've never spoken with notes. I'm very, I have the opportunity, Baruch Hashem, to speak at many occasions and many events, and I don't speak from notes because I believe you have to speak from the gut. But because of the because of really the emotional aspect of this, and it's really in first person that I'm expressing this, I'm actually going to read from my prepared text. Before when we were planning our trip to Lithuania and Poland, I want to tell you that an individual came up to me in shul, and he rhetorically posed a question to me: how can you go there? We all know what he means. My initial reaction was to tell him it's none of his business, but instead I remained silent. The question still lingered in my mind, knowing how many of my and my wife's relatives perished there. The treatment my in-laws endured to survive the war was horrendous. The question beckoned and my guilt was building. But the date was upon us, and my wife and I eventually landed in Vilnius International Airport. Upon joining our group, we proceeded to the kever of the Vilna Gaon Zatzal. It's almost impossible to think that this wouldn't be the first place to visit, for although the Gaon is gone over 2 centuries, and there is a minuscule number of Jews left in Vilna, his presence and influence still permeates the air. As we proceed to the Vilna ghetto, leading us to the courtyard of the great shul of the Vilna Gaon, which capacitated 3,000 just in the men's section, another 10 shuls surrounded the great one to handle the enormous volume of Vilna Talmidei Chachamim. I stand now amongst apartment buildings and a small yard. But I close my eyes and imagine the grandeur of the Gaon strolling through his courtyard to the awe of the throng of Jewish and non-Jewish inhabitants of Vilna. The question jars me back to reality. How can you go there? With anticipation, we're told, we're on the way to Panovich. We will see where the Panovich Rav delivered his magnificent shiurim. Why are we pulling into a shopping center? I step out of the bus to the aroma of fresh-baked goods. Eyeing a small plaque on a building, 60 Orthodox Jews stare with reverence at a treif bakery doing a robust business as the locals gawk at this peculiar sight. We do not hear the ring of the register. We hear the booming echo of Rav Kahaneman Zatzal's giving the shir in the glory of pre-war Panovich. I can dream for a moment. Onward to Tells, maybe it'll be different. We pull into an alleyway. Dogs barking, decrepit conditions. There's a red boarded up condemned building in the building. Enter at your own risk. This is Tells? We all enter in total darkness. As the walls, the floor, the ceiling are falling apart, we sing Lulei Seirascha and form a circle and sing Baruch Elokeinu, as once again the holy words reverberate off the collapsing walls. We are uplifted. The neighbors stare at this peculiar sight, but the question still rings in my ear. How can you go there? After visiting the kever of the altar of Kelm, unbeknownst to me, I am about to experience one of the most sobering and emotional experiences. The bus pulls over in the middle of open farmland, and we disembark. Rabbi Nissel explains, in front of us is the road the entire town of Kelm marched down to their killing field, where the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, killed all 2,000 residents. But as the Kelmers lived, the Kelmers died, with the dignity and self-discipline the Alter instilled in his followers. The Rav, the Rosh Hashiva, the Mashgiach, and Rebbetzin Nechama Liba, daughter of the Alter, march and lead the procession, singing Ata B'chartanu. Upon reaching the field, they concluded with the Kelmer Niggin of Adonai Elohim. Then Rabbi Nissel, fighting to control his emotions, repeated the words the Rav said to the Nazi commandant. You may now begin. So we marched in absolute silence down the same road. Dogs barking on the left, cows mooing on the right. Not much different than that terrible day 75 years ago. All I could think about were these Gedolim leading their flock and the little ones holding their mother's hands. My footsteps now overlapping theirs. On the left, I see an open field, about 3/4 of an acre, surrounded by a blue fence. There's a monument all the way in the front. We all walk quickly toward it to begin to daven. Rabbi Nissel breaks the silence, yelling, "No, no! That's not the kever. The whole field is the kever." We gasp at the realization that there are 2,000 Kedoshim under us. Tears well up in our eyes, trying to comprehend. As Rabbi Fran says, the Kelmole, Kaddish, and Avarachaman. I daven with my tears falling to the ground and finish with singing the Kelemer Adon Olam, the last song these Kedoshim uttered. I find an inability to leave, an overwhelming desire to console the victims of Kelm. I stay as long as possible. The bus is leaving. I must go. The question beckons again, but now my heart knows the answer. The itinerary says Tiktin. Embarrassingly, I don't have a clue. As we drive through miles of unremarkable farmland, we stop at the foot of a forest. We're explained that Tiktin had been a Jewish community for over 500 years. The Nazis had rounded up the 3,000 residents of Tiktin and marched them through the farmland to the edge of the forest where we stand now. Oh, the exhaustion of that march that we drove 50 miles an hour through. Now we march on the same path our brothers and sisters with their little Kinderlach marched to on that fateful day in 1941. The forest is silent, extraordinarily silent on this day. The only sound is the cracking of the branches under my feet. Deeper into the woods, I see a clearing. There's 3 fenced-in circles of land. We meet our holy brothers. For me, it's totally overwhelming. I cry like I met a long-lost relative. I visit each circle. I can't say tell them. I just want to tell them, you're not alone. And don't be afraid. I only imagine the fear of the booming guns echoing in the deathly silence of that forest. We can spend time together now, but you will never be forgotten. I leave you a part of me, if only in the form of my tears. The question beckons, but alas, the answer is finally clear now in my heart and in my mind. I agree with my friend. How can you go there? I agree. Yes, how can you go there to tour the desecration of the great yeshivas? How can you go there to look at the Kivrei Achim of Kelm, of Tiktin, of the Ninth Fort, and all the dozens of other tragic sites? How can you see or go through Majdanek or Auschwitz or Birkenau? But I chose to be there, to be with the Kedoshim of Tiktin, be there to put the words of the Holy Torah back in the halls of the devastated yeshivos, be there to shed the tears for the Kedoshim who perished in the gas chambers of Majdanek, Auschwitz, Birkenau. I don't see gas chambers or cremations or crematoriums. I see Yidden yelling Shema Yisrael, being Makabel Ol Malchus Shemayim, as we did, just the same, to let them know that the Jewish people have prospered, and we are bigger, and we are stronger. Be there to allow my tears to pour down my cheeks to the earth, to dilute the blood of our Kedoshim, to let them know that we are one and they are never forgotten. So when I go to shul this Shabbos, I know I will now respond to my friend's question, and I will ask, how can you not go there? Thank you for your attention.